The vast majority of New Orleans, Louisiana is underwater. Tens of thousands of homes and businesses are beyond repair. We are dealing with one of the worst natural disasters in our nation's history.
This is the story of how a marine services company turned the American dream into a nightmare for over 500 Indian workers. A tale of exploitation, greed, and one of the largest labor trafficking verdicts in U.S. history. This is the Signal International scandal.
Tropical Depression 12 grows in strength in the Caribbean. It's renamed Katrina.
In the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina, the Gulf Coast faced a massive labor shortage.
The unique thing about this particular hurricane, as large as it was, is that this strip of carnage like this, exists for 150 miles. From Alabama to New Orleans, a quarter mile in, you see this kind of stuff.
Signal International, a shipyard company, saw an opportunity, bring in cheap foreign labor under the guise of helping with rebuilding efforts.
We did as President Bush had asked. Find your role and do your part. And so, in many cases, the crew didn't need to be asked. They saw the need, and then they stepped up, had a recommendation for doing it, and then we said, by all means, go do it.
Welcome, and thank you for the opportunity to have the conversation that we did. I appreciated the discussion about much of which you've raised here today with regards to unemployment insurance and how we deal with the matters of fraud. I think what Senator Kaine has raised is just in terms of kind of recognizing that going forward, we need to be looking really structurally at that system that was built perhaps on a model that folks really didn't anticipate we would see these changes in this very mobile, very nimble workforce of today. You and I didn't have an opportunity to speak to it in our conversation, but I understand that when you had a chance to visit with some of the staff here on the HELP committee, the issue of H-2A, H-2B visas came up. Know that is something significant.
Signal International, alongside recruiters and immigration lawyers, began recruiting Indian workers, promising them permanent U.S. residency and a brighter future for their families. But these promises came with a hefty price. Workers were charged between $10,000 and $20,000 in recruitment fees.
10 years have gone by, and life in the Big Easy seems to have returned to normal. The tourists are back. The streets are alive with sights and culture that bring in visitors from all around the world. If you look closely, however, in places like the Lower Ninth Ward, St. Bernard's Parish, and along Highway 90, some of the scars left by Katrina just won't heal.
I'm with the Household Reefer stop because your back tail lamp is out, as well as your registration's expired. Yeah.
I was just moving the trailer.
Okay.
Yeah,
all right.
because I didn't know.
Okay. Why does your trailer look squatty? Like you don't have any load on it, but it looks squatty.
I don't know. That's the way I got it.
That's the way you got it?
That's the way they lent it to me.
76 undocumented immigrants were found in the back of a tractor trailer in what Border Patrol agents say was an attempt to smuggle them into the U.S. Authorities say they made the discovery when they stopped the driver in Laredo, Texas. The driver was a U.S. citizen and was arrested. An assistant chief patrol agent said the blatant disregard for human life will not be tolerated.
When the workers arrived, the reality was starkly different.
The Indian workers shot video to show how they lived on the worksite. It was work so far from home and with no possibility of leaving the company under the guest worker visa program.
We were like pigs in a cage. And the camp manager told me that we know the living conditions of Indians. You are getting more better food and accommodation in this country, in this company. Why you are asking for more?
Coming over, closing everything up, making everything as secure as possible. That way no one goes in and injures themselves, steps on any nails or anything, trips over any lumber or anything.
They were housed in what Signal called man camps. Overcrowded trailers with up to 24 men sharing a single bathroom. They were forced to pay $1,050 per month for these squalid accommodations. Which Signal deducted directly from their wages.
They spent their life savings and traveled halfway around the world to live the American dream. But after a year as guest workers at the Signal International shipyard, 100 of the 500 Indian welders and pipe fitters said enough was enough.
And when they arrived at Signal's facilities, what they found was shocking. 24 men living in double-wide trailers, no privacy. Their belongings were searched as they came and left. Illness being just widespread at the labor camp. Discrimination and harassment and disparaging comments at the workplace, working in the bowels of these rigs, doing the most dangerous welding and fitting work. And not only were they forced to live in this labor camp, but they were required to pay $1,050 a month each to live there.
We felt like prisoners. We were told if we complained, we'd be deported.
Workers were paid below market wages and faced constant surveillance. Any attempt to resist was met with threats of deportation or wars. This was not just exploitation, it was modern-day slavery.
The Southern Poverty Law Center, SPLC, alongside pro bono lawyers, stepped in. They filed a lawsuit on behalf of hundreds of workers, accusing Signal of labor trafficking, fraud, racketeering, and discrimination.
From fighting racism to increasing affordable housing to protecting your right to vote, we've been lifting Black and brown communities in the South since 1971. And today, our arms are still raised. Follow our fight.
This case revealed systemic abuse in the guest worker program. These workers were treated as commodities, not humans.
In the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina, over 500 Indian men were trafficked to the U.S. Gulf Coast through the federal government's guest worker program. Over 500 Indian families were deceived into thinking that these men would get green cards and permanent residency and would be able to bring their families to the United States.
Losing money, we are losing jobs, we are more struggling. So we need justice, we need freedom. No more person like with us. So we want to stop them.
Today, they're launching a hunger strike in order to expose the realities of the guest worker program and to demand that the U.S. government treat them like victims of trafficking, not like criminals.
Today, before I...
In 2015, after nearly 7 years of legal battles, the first case went to trial.
Ara estaran totes les grues una darrere l'altra clavades.
A federal jury unanimously found Signal guilty of labor trafficking. And ordered them to pay $14 million to 5 plaintiffs. This was one of the largest labor trafficking verdicts in U.S. history. Facing mounting lawsuits, Signal International declared bankruptcy. Justice was served, but the scars left on these workers remain.
When Hurricane Katrina hit the Gulf Coast, it was devastating for the region. Signal International, which is in the business of manufacturing and repairing ships and oil rigs, had the opportunity presented to them by a recruiter based in Mississippi, he could get Signal skilled welders and fitters from India to work on these rigs. Signal would not have to pay a penny to bring them to the United States. And they would have workers who, by virtue of their visa, are tied to that employer.
Every strong guy from Rockefeller to a Ford were immigrants, coming either from Ireland or Germany, and they started America.
These work. India?
They will go to any lengths, dangerous journeys, trekking through jungles, and putting their lives in the hands of criminal gangs to reach the shores of America and Europe. Indians are now the third largest illegal migrants in America, a number that is growing rapidly. Last year, the US Border Protection Agency apprehended about 100,000, and these are just who got caught.
Thank you, Ashley. The confusion with these workers in Baldwin County prompted us to learn more about this temporary job program.
And one common misconception is that using immigrant labor means cheaper labors. Well, actually, the government sets the minimum wage for H-2B visa workers at $13 an hour, well above the federal minimum wage.
Yeah, the recruiter who helped me find work in the U.S. charged me a huge finder's fee. A fee? That doesn't seem right. Recruitment fees are illegal in both countries, mija. I know, but I had to pay to land the job. Yeah.
He paid over $50,000 to traffickers to get him to America. Instead, he was flown to Kathmandu, where he was kidnapped, tied up, and threatened by smugglers who extorted money. The gang used forged boarding passes, visas, and filmed with fake backgrounds to prove he had arrived at the US border. The family then paid up. On a tip-off, the Nepal police raided the building, arresting the kidnappers and rescuing Subhash and 10 others.
And while that is something that is not exclusively within Department of Labor, it shares with Homeland as well. That is a matter that we struggle every season, just about this time of year, to ensure that we have the necessary numbers of seafood workers able to come to the state.
Even as India registers one of the fastest economic growths and is the 5th largest economy in the world, there is a massive imbalance. In the last few years, the proliferation of traffickers has increased manyfold, preying on the vulnerable and poor. But it's the rate of success of these operations, where large numbers are crossing over to America and Western Europe, that is fueling this dream. And people are taking their chances at whatever cost.
Workers were told that they would be coming to the United States on permanent residence visas. What the workers didn't realize is that guest worker visas and permanent residence status are inherently incompatible. One is temporary, one is permanent. Some of them even paid $25,000 for this opportunity to come to work in the United States.
This case shed light on the vulnerabilities of the H-2B visa program and the need for stronger protections for foreign workers. It also set a precedent, showing that even powerful corporations can be held accountable for exploitation. But the fight isn't over. Cases like Signal's are not isolated incidents. Labor trafficking continues globally. Organizations like the SPLC work tirelessly to protect vulnerable workers, but more needs to be done.
I wish that I didn't have to come back every year and make this case and make this argument. We would like to get a permanent fix, and we would hope that we would be able to work with those within the department to achieve just that.
And then little by little, the workers realized that these green card promises were lies. When they started to complain, to talk amongst themselves and talk to lawyers about their conditions, Signal engaged in a roundup of some of the leaders of this organizing effort with plans to forcibly deport them.
But for those determined to make that journey, all options are open, at whatever cost. Many are not as lucky. Malki's belongings is all that is left with the family. They sold property and took loans to pay for his journey. On the borders of Guatemala, all contact was lost. A few weeks later, the family identified his body from a video posted on social media. My brother was killed for money. The mafia gangs involved were robbing them and fired on the people, and my brother was shot and killed.
We have arrested almost 75 people still now.
The pace and scale has alarmed authorities, and they have cracked down on smugglers and their network. But it's an overwhelming task.
Children is saying, he will either die or you send me. Through social media, if someone is outside, basically this is happening, they send the good photos in the big bungalows and big cars, they put that status. And these youths get attracted and they say that they will also get the same thing there.
से 12% casualty पक्की है.
10 to 12% die, says Joginder, one of the many traffickers that operate these networks, sending over 1,000 people every year. It's a multi-billion-dollar trade that has insatiable demands.
Princeton Police Department is now releasing details of an investigation which led to 4 people being arrested in March after 15 women were found inside the home as alleged victims of human labor trafficking. And police say there was basically no furniture inside this home at the center of the human trafficking investigation, mostly just electronics, some folding tables, and blankets.
In the Mexican town of Tapachula, a hub for traveling migrants, large numbers are from India. A Sky News team witnessed new arrivals at the many curry houses dotting the town. Here, they wait for an opportune time. The legal routes to immigrate is crowded, difficult, and time-consuming.
There was tables set up with laptops and computers.
Sergeant Carolyn Crawford will not reveal what type of labor operation was happening, but says dozens of more people are involved.
I can probably say over 100 easily.
More than 100 people involved in this operation?
Yes.
And are most of those 100 people here in DFW?
Yes.
Of those 100 people, more than half are victims, according to the sergeant. As for the others, well, more arrests are expected. For now, Shandin Dasareddy, Dwaraka Gunda, Santhash Katkori, and Anil Mail are charged with trafficking of persons.
This case is a reminder of the price of greed and the resilience of those who stand up against injustice. If you want to support efforts to end labor trafficking, check out the links below.
We'd filed this case as a class action, claiming that the workers were subjected to labor trafficking, racketeering, discrimination, contract violations, common law fraud. The class was not certified, and Signal considered that to be a huge victory. And the result was 12 separate lawsuits filed on behalf of close to 250 workers. We were provided with 2.5 million documents. The levels of discrimination, of collusion and fraud, we were able to prove with these documents, some of which were just appalling. The extent to which Signal profited was very evident through these documents. We had a 5-week trial, an incredible team effort, and I've never had a collaborative effort that can come close to matching what we had here. The result of the trial was a $14.1 million verdict for the first 5 plaintiffs to go to trial. Something that was really impressive about this group of clients was that they stuck with it. Signal did whatever it could to delay this case, and these workers persevered, and in the end, having stuck it out for 7 long years, they achieved real justice. This case is about getting justice for our clients, while at the same time highlighting deep flaws in our guest worker program that allowed these kinds of abuses to take place, and about sending the message both to this company and to other employers that they won't get away with this kind of behavior.
आसपास पता कर लो भी यार ये कोठी बहुत अच्छी है यार.
Ask anyone who has a big house and they will say their son is abroad. It's a race. People sell property, jewelry, and even their homes to leave. They want to go and I send. It's just business.
The David et al. Versus Signal International LLC case wasn't just about exposing corporate greed, it was a battle for human dignity and justice. This civil RICO lawsuit sent a powerful message to companies exploiting vulnerable workers. Accountability will prevail. But the fight against labor trafficking isn't over. Cases like this reveal systemic flaws in programs designed to protect workers, leaving them vulnerable to exploitation. It's a call for vigilance, reform, and advocacy. If you want to learn more or support organizations fighting labor trafficking, check out the links below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe as we continue uncovering stories that matter. Together, we can shine a light on injustice and work towards a fairer future. Thank you for watching.